I guess better than just drinking it. Maybe I should pour out a little of this, but not going to pour it on my desk. It is Sunday, December 1st at 4:08 in the afternoon. Your Indianapolis Colts have just beaten the New England Patriots. That's always fun. But I waited till that game was over to come talk to you guys. Hope you're doing well. It's the third time you've seen this ugly mug in less than 16 hours, something like that. And I said I'd come back if there was news, and here I am. It took me a little bit of time. It wasn't exactly Johnny on the spot here, but I did want to say something. I'll tell you. Also, we're looking at having Handsome Hour. We're looking at doing it tonight. We couldn't make it happen because one of the three of us is traveling currently, so he could not jump on the pod. So I wanted to do something. So tomorrow, 9 p.m.-ish, same normal Handsome Hour. We'll have a little bit of a fallout session where we talk about what are the effects of this, what's coming next. Purdue will have a press conference tomorrow at 11 a.m. From Mackey Arena, where Bobinski will address the media and the fans and talk about what's going on and hopefully tell us why he was doing it, and maybe even talk about what was happening in the interim, if this game cemented the firing of Walters or what the deal is. I'm going to get into this here in 1 second, but first let me thank our good buddies at AJ's. Head over to eatajs.com if you want to order ahead. But nobody wants to just order ahead. You want to go and have the food fresh in the restaurant and enjoy the staff, the people there. They make the place. The food's good. Don't get me wrong. Food's good. Drink's good. Staff is great. That's something. A lot of places have good food. Very few places have very good food and great staff. Head towards the fire station. If you're coming from Mackey, turn left. See the blue lights. Go in, order yourself some mac and cheese bites or a pretzel appetizer. And then get a pint and maybe a boiled sports magnet in the bottom if it's a game day. Okay, also, head over to homefieldapparel.com, grab a sweet sweatshirt or a t-shirt or a hat, and enter Boiled25 at checkout for 15% off, or check out their Twitter. Like I've been telling you guys, I think tomorrow is the last day of the Black Friday extended dance remix sale. 30% off. Really, really good. All right, now let's talk about the stuff, guys, girls. So did Bobinski, was his hand forced? Meaning, was he going to bring Walters back like the idea had been floated from the athletic department to Tom Dienert and the Golden Black staff? I sure hope that wasn't it. Like, I really hope that one game wasn't the deciding factor. A couple people texted me who aren't Purdue fans and asked me that question. Was the IU game it? Was that the thing that did it? I just heard a report. My brother told me that when Jerry DiNardo was fired from IU, supposedly he was ready to come back to IU. They were ready to bring him back. And then Purdue beat DiNardo's Hoosiers like a drum in the bucket game. That was the game where Purdue put up 700 yards of offense, an absurd day. At least we didn't allow IU to have 700 yards off and just almost 600 while only getting 67 yards of offense on the other side. But I sure hope that one game wasn't it. Regardless of what it was and what's the reason that Walters was finally relieved of his duties as head coach, it's a good thing this era is over for Purdue fans and the program alike. I didn't talk about this yesterday because I hadn't heard it because I got on live with you guys during the second half and then in the postgame. But Ryan Walters, during his postgame questions, very, very short postgame presser, he was asked if he should be brought back and why. And he said he should, and it's because he had a plan. And the ironic thing, whenever someone has a plan and they cause the problem, you should take it with a grain of salt. You should especially take it with a grain of salt when the current coach is not doing anything to improve the situation. And it felt like the hole was getting deeper every time Purdue got on the field. Lots of things were happening. Purdue was hemorrhaging players into the portal. They were hemorrhaging recruits, as we had talked about. LBD and I looked at that a little bit, and something had to be done. But why did it have to be done? Well, here, let's look at this. A lot of people, especially early on, when Purdue got beaten by Notre Dame, you started hearing whispers, maybe even murmurs, perhaps a little bit louder in that this looked like Hazel 2.0. Well, After Walters is relieved of his duties as Purdue head coach, his winning percentage is actually worse than Hazel's. A 20.8% winning percentage for Ryan Walters and a 21.4% winning percentage for Daryl Hazel. It's pretty lousy. 5-19 after it's all said and done for Ryan Walters. A pretty big mistake. And if you look at some other things, a guy that it was a defensive guru, he was co-defensive coordinator for 3 or 4 years at Missouri. Then he was DC for 2 years. Then he was DC for 2 years at Illinois. Then he was hired by Purdue head coach. And here are some of the things that should bother Mike Bobinski after the fact. 31 points or more allowed in 16 of Walters' 24 games as head coach. Every single FBS opponent scored at least 24 points versus Purdue this season or more. That's pretty awful, especially for a defense that was relatively healthy all season. In fact, I'd say real healthy this season, much healthier than last year where Purdue managed to get 4 wins. Purdue allowed 50 or more points 4 times this season. And as we talked about last night, to remind everybody again, the 2 worst losses in the history of Purdue's football program, a 59-point loss to Notre Dame and a 66-point loss to IU last night, occurred under the tutelage of Ryan Walters. Purdue football didn't just start. That was 135 years of history, and he found a way to dig a hole even deeper than what we thought it was possible. Really, really dark era. I think one thing that I encourage every Purdue fan to do is let's move on, because we got what we wanted. We want the next step. We wanted something to be hopeful for. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. It was dark. I talked to an ex-Purdue football player via DM today, and I told him, I was like, man, that's pretty hopeless stuff. It felt like going to the games was work. That's a really lousy thing. I remember when he was playing, this guy was playing back during the Tiller era, how I was excited for every game. Look forward to it. It was like, Saturdays couldn't come soon enough. And during the off season, you just couldn't wait, right? Couldn't wait. I remember the first time I met Joe Tiller was I was an RA. He came and spoke to my staff residents. My staff resident put it on, asked him to come and talk to our unit in Tarkington. And it was exciting because you're like, okay, this guy, he's different. And then right out of the chute, Tiller lost to, was it Toledo? And then came back, beat Notre Dame, and Purdue had a hell of a first season under Tiller and a lot of really good seasons. You got to give fans something to hope for. And I think the first season when Walters came in, Purdue had a reason to be hopeful. But real quickly this year, we saw that hope was dashed. After the Indiana State game, it felt very, very different all of a sudden. There was no pop. You look at the guys on the field and you're like, man, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing new here. There's no wrinkles. The offense looks stagnant. And so then Graham Harrell was the scapegoat. He rode out of town early in the season. After he rode out, nothing got better. It didn't matter if it was Simmons or Hazel calling plays. Purdue offense just looked bad, just as bad as that defense that I just reviewed. This was the right thing to do. And again, I don't understand why the idea was ever floated of bringing Walters back after about midseason. I don't understand that. I want to hear a good explanation from Bobinski, and I'll give him a chance to do it tomorrow. Look forward to hearing what he has to say, but I don't understand that. The leadership, I don't get it. I don't think it was well handled at all. If we're going to be really, really honest, and I think we should be honest. The good news for Mike Bobinski, even though he has 2 years left in his time at Purdue, he released a press statement. He said it was time for a change, and he knows how pivotal it is with the new era of college football coming next year. Things changing again because of the revenue sharing and the do we call them salaried football players? The NIL being brought in-house and away from the collective. I think that's also going to happen. A lot changes. And so staying the course, especially when the course was this putrid, it was an absolute must. I got in my car this morning to go to, I go to church pretty early in the morning, and on Sirius XM, I was listening to the college football or the college sports station. Like the second thing I hear is Purdue was a joke. Did Purdue even show up? All the great rivalry games yesterday between teams that maybe looked overmatched. And this one was the absolute worst, where a team looked like they were listless. They didn't care. They didn't have a heart to them. And that's really, really lousy. Got into a little conversation with somebody on Twitter who said, yeah, you got to give Walters another year because you put that all on the players. And the ironic thing was there was in a thread by another ex Purdue football player, Race Johnson, who's been on here a couple times, saying, no, coaches can motivate and make a big difference. No, that's wrong. It was Jason King. Pardon me. It was Jason King. And Jason King talked about how many good players played for Hazel and ended up doing nothing. And it didn't show on the field because of not only the scheme, but the motivation. Hazel was so even keel. He didn't get guys ready to play. And maybe that's a similar thing with Walters, that guys were never fired out of a cannon. Purdue did not start games well. Purdue did not, they ended games okay, I guess. But they didn't ever have that big, fight to the finish, the idea of urgency. And Walters never had any urgency, clearly. We didn't see any change of philosophy as things were really floundering around and looking bad this season. This is the absolute right thing to do. Had to be done, and now they get to move on. So there is some reading of tea leaves by some of you guys out there saying, okay, there's going to be Bobinski talked to the team and said, 7 days from now, I think that's right, they'll announce, they hope to announce who the coach is. And some people are saying, well, that's because the conference championships are in 6 days from now. And so right after that, you announce that your coach is one of those guys that's participating in a conference championship. Sure, that might be it. But I also think there's a bigger thing at play there. That week after that, 7 days from now, I think the base of that week has signing day. I believe that's right. And so if Purdue has any chance of holding on to guys that are in the program right now or have entered the portal, you have to get that coach on campus, talking to him, shaking hands, looking him in the eye. And speaking of that idea, this is something that I wanted to bring up. This was tweeted by Ben Cruel. He talked about, I just lost my spot, but he talked about how when Hazel came in, and this is his Twitter feed, not mine, but it's out there. And he says, when Walters first came as head coach, he asked 20 guys to leave, and he was one of them. He was one of them. He said, no handshake, no eye contact. This is a quote, not even a thank you. But that's the program Walters went on to build, foreshadowing clear as day. And he said he wasn't the only one that was treated that way. And he said they were just coming off from going to the Big Ten championship, and they were treated that way as if they weren't worth a damn. That's the first time I've heard that story corroborated by a source that was next to what was happening. I heard this before, that he came in and he said, okay, I'm going to start building my roster and bringing guys in that are mine. And that's part of the reason there was such attrition that first year. But then it happened again, and he himself hinted at it during this offseason in the summer. He said, there were some guys that I really wanted. I wanted to, upgrade. I think he said that. And some of those upgrades we saw this year didn't look like upgrades on the field at all. And if you specifically think of some of the guys that were brought in from the SEC that we had high hopes for, not all of them. There are guys like Morissette that get dumped in or lumped in together with this group. Morissette was solid all season, and I know he's kind of an unsung guy, but he was solid start to finish. When he was given a chance to catch the ball, he'd catch it. I know he had the embarrassing out of bounds play, and I'm not forgetting that. But at the same time, he was a solid receiver. So you can't say everybody that transferred in was not productive, but you can say a lot of the guys that had a lot of hype around them did not do much. And that's kind of a shame, especially if you have guys like ex-players that were recruited by Brom were just told to show them the door and said, get out of here. So a lot of stuff out there. Let me see what you guys have to say. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in. Melissa Hunt is first here. Says, hallelujah. We made it out alive. Okay, so here, let me tell you another thing about my interaction I had with that ex-player. He said there's kind of a tightrope we all have to walk as Purdue fans, because he was really sensitive to the idea that these are people, the coaches are people. And I know I've said it before, I'll say it again. These coaches, don't make it personal about them. I don't think there's anything to make it personal about them. But the frustration was palpable for multiple reasons. One, During press conferences, when Walters was asked, are you going to change the course, change your pattern? He said, well, we're going to stay the course. Why would you even ask the question, pretty much? And then after this last game, he said he had the plan to make it better. That's a kind of an unusual cockiness from a guy who had no reason to be confident at all. And that makes people frustrated and angry. And the other thing that makes people angry in this soup, in this concoction that was created by the Purdue Athletic Department, is those ideas floated that I referenced earlier. To Gold and Black and reported by Tom Diener. It's not Diener's report, by the way. He didn't make it up. He just was told, this is what you're going to tell people, right? This is what you're going to tell On3. This is what they're going to run with. That we're trending towards bringing Ryan Walters back. And I can tell you, that thing was a powder keg for me personally. I can't speak for all of you. But that in itself made it so frustrating and made me so angry and made me on edge because I was like, there's a chance he's coming back. Even as bad as Purdue's played, there's a chance he's coming back. There's a chance he's coming back, even though this is a historically bad year, a bad season. Even though players are already heading to the portal and dropping out of their commitments, he's still coming back. I can't believe it, right? And so when it was announced this morning, I think it was morning. No, it was afternoon, early afternoon. It was announced this early afternoon. Purdue fans were overjoyed, and I'm one of those. And I'm not dancing on a guy's grave. In fact, congratulations, Ryan Walters. You just made $9 million for nothing. You get to go and do that however you want and then go make money. Congratulations. I'm not kidding. Good on you. That's a great living. In fact, that's what Anish has been saying for a decade. That's his dream job. Getting fired with a severance package for millions of dollars. What a deal. Here's a bunch of money. Now go away. Ed Orgeron literally celebrated the concept and the idea on social media when he was fired by LSU and has stayed around LSU. This is not an uncommon reaction. But this ex-player said we need to be cognizant of the idea that these are people and their families, and I get that. I completely understand. And like I said before, I don't like that. I don't like it at all that Walter's family had to hear some of this stuff. But in the age of social media, stuff like that's going to happen. And it's not personal against his family, obviously, his kids. No, that's not it. That's not the story. This is all about a guy who was hired. By the way, this isn't his fault. A guy that was hired and wasn't ready to do the job. He was good in an interview. He was good at selling and not good at coaching. It's not his fault that he stunk as coach. That's Bobinski's fault for making a bad hire. Again, let's bring it back to that. And Bobinski has a thick skin. He's an old pro at this. He should have no problem hearing that from somebody like me who's an alum and a season ticket holder. The really good news is guys like me who said they weren't going to get season tickets are now going to get season tickets. Unless this is an absolute flop of a hire, meaning you can't even win a press conference, right? The old adage is it's easy to win a press conference. It's really difficult to win on the field and do it with consistency. So to have a thud of a press conference isn't the end of the world as long as this person has, hey, here are my criteria. Hey, I want this person to be an experienced head coach. Okay. When I say experience, I want at least 4 years of experience. This is me. If I were heading up the committee, I want 4 years of head coaching experience with a overwhelmingly winning record. Maybe having a sign that you've turned something around, because that's what you're going to have to do here. The second thing, I want an offensive-minded guy, a guy who used to be an offensive coordinator or an offense guru. And I want a guy who can bring the staff with him. We'll bring his staff and bring some players with him because there's going to be some gaps that need to be filled right away. And you need guys on board, good soldiers that can lead and say, this is the way we do things. You know, bring the right guys. There's going to be some ruffling of feathers in this transition. That always happens. It happens at corporations when new guys take over. It's going to happen here. I hate that Ben Cruel story, though. I hate it. I hate hearing it. I hope nothing like that happens because guys should be valued. I've said this over and over. The players that chose to come to Purdue should be valued unless they're malcontents. And I don't think there are many of those on the roster. I do think there are a couple, if we're being real honest. And I'm not going to name names. I just do think there are a couple guys that you say, hey, might be time to go. And, but you don't come in clean house. That's for damn sure. All right. Adam P says, good afternoon. Ted Berkey is here, says, right call to let Walters go. Sad it didn't work out, but time to move on. Now get someone to revive this program. Agreed. And I have a list. I'm actually going to publish my list on the site in real words, like typed. And then we're going to talk about it during the Handsome Hour. The guys also have their list, but I think I'm going to put mine out there. I don't know exactly how. I don't know. I'm going to format it, but it'll give everybody a chance to react. I know a lot of you guys think my suggestions are stupid. That's fine. Sound off. That's okay. Conversation is good. But my my methodology is pretty clear. Head coaching experience, offensive minded, and able to bring a staff with them. I've got some other things that I'd kind of like this guy to have a little pop to his name, a little sizzle. But there are a couple guys on my list, and maybe you hear names like Helton from Western Kentucky, and you might say, or Candle. Those are two names that I've heard by people that are like, man, I really like this guy. And you say, that's not much sizzle, doesn't cause much inspiration. Here's what happens with a guy like that if they come in and succeed. They come in, it'll be a slow burn, right? May take a little bit of time to get things moving, but you're going to have a dip in season ticket sales. You're going to have a dip in enthusiasm. You really will. Because there are very few coaches out there that just can rock a, pep rally and go out there. What Cignetti did for IU was lightning in a bottle. It's pretty incredible to come in there, talk your crap, and then back it up. Even so, IU wasn't, Memorial Stadium wasn't full right away, right? And I know IU fans came on in our comments list and I said it was full. It was not full on TV. It may have been sold out, but I can tell you there were a ton of IU fans that just decided not to go. Too cold, too chilly for them. It's a delicate bunch over there, down there. All right, I'm going to continue on here. Let's see. Ben Cotton says, forget Black Friday weekend. It's beat-down weekend. Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. And just like Black Friday, you're going to be underwhelmed because of the old bait and switch. You thought you'd get Anish and Jay right away, but you get Boiler Dowd again and again and again. Mike Gordon says, Boiler up, B-Dowd. Good to see you. JP Boiler says, Jamie Chadwell has to be the go-to, and that's my guy. I'm going to put my cards out front. I had Chip Kelly as my number one. I still have him up there, but I'd say Chadwell is the perfect guy for this job, in my opinion, right now. His resume is deep. He has had two great runs at schools. His most recent one at Liberty isn't long, but I believe Liberty has a 13-win season last year, I think. I mean, holy crap. I don't care what division. That's a lot of wins. Okay. But before that, he had Coastal Carolina, where he was absolute, a stud. And they had, I think, 2-11 win season at Coastal Carolina. This stuff matters. Right? There's a record of success and there's a record of offensive ingenuity and innovation. It's not exactly what we're used to seeing at Purdue, but there is offensive innovation, offense first philosophy. Now, there's a lot of people that say Brock Spack comes up. This is funny. I had a guy who really wants Brock Spack to come. That's good. I like Brock Spack. I got nothing against Brock Spack. But the one thing that I would say is as the sands are shifting underneath the feet of many of these programs and athletic departments, you need a somewhat young coach. I know this is part of the reason Walters was hired, but you need a somewhat young coach who is flexible enough to handle these changes of rules and isn't too staid in his way of doing. I think Brock Spack's a great coach. I think he's a great coach. I would love to see him as defensive coordinator, but the problem is now I want this head coach to bring in his guys. And if he can, a guy like, is it Lashley at SMU? That he's on my list, but his resume's thin, so I don't put him up high. I want deeper resumes than that. We've gone through the 2 years of flash in the pan success. I want long success. And that's where a guy like Candle from Toledo is such a good candidate. He's been there a long time and won with consistency. So, but not a lot of sizzle again. So this is a difficult thing for whoever's making the hire. I'm not the guy. I don't get paid as much as those people to make that hire. I'm not on a committee, but I can tell you the Boiled Sports coaching search committee is pretty damn good at what we do. We've done this before. So you'll see. We'll release what we've got, and it's coming. Swag123 says Yahoo Sports says Chip Kelly might replace Walters. Really? That's a guy that's on my list, and he is in my top two. He's in my top two. He has been in my top two. He was my number one for a while. I got laughed at by Boiled Sports members saying they'll never get him. They won't want him. Ohio State probably wants him gone. Chip Kelly, do not look at Chip Kelly, what you just saw versus Michigan, and say that's it. That's not the story. Chip Kelly has a very deep resume. He's coached everywhere, and his offenses have been excellent. And he's a guy that has connections literally coast to coast. He's from New Hampshire. He's coached in the NFL. He's coached at UCLA. He's coached at Oregon. And now he's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. That is an impeccable resume. In a world of guys being, promotion, he's not that guy. He has done the job a long time, a lot of different places. I think he has to be on the Rolodex. Let's see. Andy Day says, I can't believe they did it. Yeah, I'm glad they pulled the trigger. Jeff in SF says, did you see Ben Cruel's X post? Yes, I did. Jason D says, are there tickets available for the presser at Mackey? It's a good question. I don't think even if there were tickets, it would be that sold out. What I hope to see is all the football players stand there in the background, kind of reminiscent of the old Matt Painter presser. But guys, looking forward to an answer and not completely shut down with the idea of leaving our alma mater. That's my big thing. There are some guys that I really want to see come back. I want to see most of these guys back. I just do. And part of the reason I'd like to see most of here's this from a player's standpoint. I don't have any connection to the roster. I don't know anybody on the team really, other than some interactions virtually. But one thing is these guys have been badmouthed by many fans and college sports fans saying Purdue just doesn't have the talent. And even Walters hinted at it. They don't have the talent. They didn't succeed enough in the portal when at the same time he said that Purdue got what they wanted out of the portal. And then all of a sudden, as Purdue wasn't winning, we're saying, oh, we may not have the parts here. Well, guess what? I think the parts are there. I think there's enough talent to win. They just need to be coached up. They were not coached up. They were not prepared. Walters did not know how to solve the problem that he had created. Sam says, super critical decision ahead. Let's not Walters this again, athletic department. And I don't think they will. I don't think you're going to see that type of thing. I think they're too smart. One thing that's funny, Dienert's article today, the things he said he wanted are the things that I've been saying I've wanted for weeks. So I'm glad Tommy D and I are on the same page. I think he's, by the way, when he is shooting straight, when he's not being told to regurgitate ideas from the athletic department, he has been excellent this season. I will sing his praises again. But when he's been forced to tap dance, which he has been, probably because he got a little bit ahead of himself according to Golden Black's rules of what you can say and can't say. That's when a lot of people have been frustrated with Tom, but Tom's had his first half of the season was excellent. An honest, unvarnished opinion. Awesome. Q Turner says, God's Day blessing Boilers, like Walters, but man, this season was rough beyond measure. Well wishes, $9 million to go with it. Good point. Rudy Ray Moore says, wow, I didn't think they were going to do it. Yep. Tim Eaton says, swirling the ice, sweetest sound, great news. Yeah, the swirling the ice, thank you for enjoying it. It's the filler that I have to do, and I know many people don't like it, but it's here to stay. Sam says, Colts beat the Pats, Walters is fire so far, good day. Yeah, that's a great day. Nick Ganot says, your sound is cutting in and out really bad unless it's my device. Everybody else tell me if that's the case. Yeah, some mic audio drops. Okay. I hope it isn't too bad because I'm so deep into this and I felt pretty good about the things I said. So if it's been bad, I apologize. Very, very sorry about that. And there are so many audio demons and I don't know why this is happening. Because boy, this has been a tough season from a device standpoint here. Thanks for telling me, though, guys. Appreciate it. Just makes me overthink it now. All right, Anna in Colorado says, Boiler up. Good to see everyone again. Let's see. Melissa Hunt said, I might have smacked my mic. It's going in and out. One second. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on because all the connections are good. So that stuff's good, and the cable is weeks old. So I replaced it this year after problems earlier. So it could very well be that. One second. Bear with me for one moment. Okay, it's the correct mic. All right, I'm going to keep going, and if this is bad, I apologize. Metal Scholar 07 says, thank God, given the evolving landscape of two super leagues, Big Ten, SEC, and NIL, the next head coach must be a person with big league head coaching experience. I just think you need head coaching experience. You need a guy who's a CEO and really good at managing rosters and that sort of thing. I'm going to click Clint Eastwood 12 says Rich Rod book it. That is not the guy I want. And if you don't know the story about what Rich Rod, I'm sorry, I do not agree with this idea at all. Rich Rodriguez has a cloud around him, in my opinion, for the way he handled himself personally a couple seasons. Check out some of the stories from when he was at Arizona, especially towards his last year there. Embarrassing stuff. I think it was Arizona he was there. Very embarrassing stuff. Very I don't have any time for it. Mike Gordon says Summerall or Chadwell. Brandon Alexander says, thank you for getting us through this hellish nightmare. You're welcome. I'm going to go down further. How you doing, Morgan? Arnold D'Amico says, I feel bad for seniors like Gus Hartwig. Me too. And specifically one guy who I really like and I've met multiple times, and he wasn't given the opportunity to succeed. The offensive line was beleaguered. They looked bad. They were poorly coached. The scheme sucked. Hartwig is somebody that my heart goes out to, and it sucks. This is a guy, he's got a lot of good things in his life. He's got a lot of ways he can go. He can play football, and he's smart too. And regardless of what his next chapter is, whether it's playing football or doing something in the real world, he'll do well. He's going to represent Purdue well, but I hate it for him too. I'm with you. Let's see. Mohel 93, good question, says NC or Purdue, which one's the better job? So there are a lot of people. Anish loves the NC job. He loves the brand. And I keep reminding him, this is not North Carolina, the basketball job. This is football. The Big Ten branding, the Big Ten bag that comes with it, the television money that comes with the Big Ten brings stability and resources that you simply do not have in the ACC. Now, North Carolina is one of the schools that is the apple of the Big Ten's eye, I believe. So as the ACC falters and crumbles eventually, they will probably become part of the Big Ten as Miami and Clemson go on to the SEC. So that at that point, then you'd say, okay, they're in a great position to succeed. But if the Big Ten handles it as they have other expansions, there's going to be a year or two of transition again where they won't receive the money. That's a strong brand, though. I would say right now, Purdue is a pretty damn good job. If you say these are 1A and 1B of the openings, you also have West Virginia now open, and other openings are coming. The carousel is spinning, regardless. Sam says Chadwell's buyout is large-ish. Yes, that's a concern. Again, if they go through this process, he's interested, he picks up the phone, and he will talk to Purdue, and there's a back and forth, a mutual respect, however you want to say it, and Purdue likes him, it might be time to dance that way. Purdue went cheap last time. They went with a guy who had hardly any buyout. They got a guy with a low salary, and they got a guy with no head coaching experience, and it did not work out. Might be time to do something a little different. And by the way, when you bring in a head coach with a record, generally, especially when a deep record, generally you're going to get better results. You're definitely not going to get what we saw this last time, where you have a guy that's so green that he doesn't know how to handle the tides that are coming at him. Rudy Ray Moore says, I want someone from the Midwest, Big Ten country, understands the Big Ten. No to Chadwell, no to Barry Odom, Candle, no to Brocksback, hell no. Okay, so I like the point there. I don't know if I agree with all the sub points, but the big one is you want a guy with Midwestern connection or from the Midwest. I would argue that you want a guy from the Midwest. I think that's a good point, and I can understand why that moves Chadwell out of there. But Chadwell's, again, his offensive mind makes him very, very good for me. Getting a guy from SEC country makes you think he's probably going to be dragged back down to SEC country. I get the point. And that's where a guy like Candle all of a sudden looks like a really good candidate. I think Candle is a great candidate, not a good one, because of the fact he's got this resume that shows long success, and he's a guy from Ohio. That's a really big deal. Chip Kelly is from New Hampshire, like I said, and has I don't think he's not gonna be dragged away by New Hampshire. I think there's a chance that he could be dragged by another program, but anybody could. That's the whole thing. And here's the scenario everybody asks. If somebody comes for 2 years or 1 year and wins 10 games, let's pretend for a second you're IU, okay? Pretend for a second you're an IU fan. You're one of the 5. And you went through this season, and somehow someone is able to get Signetti, even though he has that big contract and big decent buyout, I think. I don't know if that's been publicized yet. But they're able to drag him away. Would you say, yeah, I'll take it because we got an 11-1 season that's absolutely historical and sends IU to the playoff? Yeah. Because I think a year ago, would you have said it was a possibility for Purdue to go to the playoff? I mean, that's really rare air. That's a tremendous season. It's a history-making season, and the run alone of that season, week in, week out fun of your favorite team being a national story, being always on the news, going to the stadium, the electricity and energy in the air, the tailgating, the whole thing. Is it worth it? Yeah, it's probably worth it. It's probably worth it. So you don't want to think like, okay, we don't want this guy to be, just make the buyout enough that you get a running start on that next coach and you get a guy that's good, right? You don't want to make the contract absolute prohibitive where, you're in a position where you're like, man, we can't afford this buyout. Like, for instance, Texas A&M. Texas A&M has funny money, but they paid a $72 million buyout to Jimbo Fisher. Michigan State, if it wasn't for Tucker's propensity for dumb decisions, they would have had like an $80 million buyout. Anyway, let's keep going. Jason D says, wait, you're going to make me read actual words? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. What is this, 1824? This is a fair criticism, Jason. Here's the good news. I will talk about those words on the Handsome Hour. But yes, I'm going to make you read words, I believe. I apologize. Good interaction, by the way, Jason, on Twitter. Been a lot of fun. Jason Ron says, Andy Cuddle-Nicky will be a head coach somewhere soon. Might as well be here. He's an insane offensive mind. See, there's a lot of names that I'm not focusing on, and I just don't know. It's a big net. I don't know who that is. I apologize. So call me an idiot, and you won't be the first. Pat Gottschall says, thoughts on Brent Vegan at Montana State. This is a very good, fun offense. Do you want to go down that division? I don't think it's a bad thing. Lance Leopold is a name that's being circulated as a possibility for Purdue. I don't know what his buyout is. I think it's actually smaller. If I remember, I did some research on him. I think his buyout is smaller than Chadwell's at Liberty. Liberty throws down cash, man, for a small school. So I think I might go. I know Leopold came from the lower division, right? But yeah, I think that's a good candidate. I just don't know if he's my candidate. He's not going to be on my short board, if you will. Let's see. I'm going to go down. Sam says, need a proven identity. Chadwell is that. Absolutely. Kendall is too. Kelly wants to only call plays and sit in a booth, not recruit, not offer effort. And this is what I've heard about him. He might be too old. He might say, yeah, I'm not recruiting anymore. If you do that, you say, okay, well, then tell me about your staff. Right? If we really want Chad Kelly's offensive brain, and we want the fact that we know he's built programs and taken them to heights. Okay, tell me about your offensive defensive coordinators. You need guys that bring in the big fish. No doubt about it. So I understand that gripe. I think it's fair. Don Reith says, Chip Kelly used Purdue for leverage in 2013. We ended up with Hazel. Yeah, there's a lot of stories about that. That coaching hire of coaches being in conversations with Purdue, and I don't know how true they are, I'll be honest. But I would have used Purdue as leverage if I didn't have a intention to leave. Matt Painter used Missouri as leverage to stay at Purdue and get his staff a raise. So it happens. I don't hold that grudge, honestly. If you've got a school that you feel like your assistants aren't getting paid enough, and you're not getting paid enough for your market value, that's part of the game. This is where agents make their money. So that doesn't seem untoward to me. And in Colorado says sound has been good ever since the comment on my end. So I think it's all right now. Good. I think maybe just me touching the wire made it magically fixed. Yeah. So I apologize to everybody for that bad sound. Brandon Alexander said, I have only discovered you last year, and you have quickly become my favorite Purdue commentator. Great work and boiler up. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. And yeah, I've worked pretty hard at being consistent. So thanks for noticing, and thanks for tuning in. Warden Cliff says audio has been totally fine. That's great. That's really good to hear. Like I tell you, I get in my own head, and one thing that I've tried to do is make good video and good audio consistently. The equipment matters, how you do things matter. And that's a point of differentiation. Some of the Purdue outlets were really struggling with that, and it frustrated the hell out of me as a consumer. And so I didn't want it to be that way. So thanks, guys and girls. Dang, this thing keeps jumping around. I apologize to everybody. Let's see. I'm going to find another one. Wendell Polly says, do you think Walter's people were leaking the reports about him possibly coming back? No, I don't think those were Walter's people. I think that was athletic department stuff. And the reason I do is because Golden Black was the source that was talking about it. Then On3 was taking it from Golden Black, which tells me that's an athletic department trial balloon, or it's not even a leak. It's just them saying, hey, here's what we're telling you right now. Blake, thoughts on the Memphis coach, Ryan Silverfield? Good stuff. That's another guy on my short list. I like Ryan Silverfield a lot. He's got a long resume. They've had good offenses. He's brought talent in where in a place that's kind of tough to do it. They've been explosive. Yeah, he's a good candidate in my opinion. Kevin in Albuquerque says, "Thank you for a chance for this program to move on." Same here. Connor Fitch says, "Chuck Martin has a chance to win the MAC in back-to-back years." Yeah, let's see. Make sure I read that right. Then we got Mike Gordon saying, people are saying Helton from Western Kentucky, but I'm not crazy about that one. Yeah, so the Helton name was leaked last time during the Walters hire. It was very close. He was very close to getting the job. So I think he's a guy that's very interested in Purdue. I think that's accurate, but we don't know exactly what went down. Like how much of the conversation was had. Was it just agents talking to the athletic department or talking to the hiring committee? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. Joe Pilotti or Pilot, sorry for butchering that, says, "Follow the Tiller blueprint for a great hire." Yeah, that's a good one. And if you remember that, he brought his staff and he lost a staff member to cancer right away, which was crazy. One thing Tiller did, I said this last night, I was talking about that, the talent assessment of Joe Tiller was his superpower. Like the offense was awesome, right? He brought an offense that the Big Ten hadn't seen. That was a big deal. But his ability to find guys the right position to play really, really mattered. Talent assessment, development, man, he was great at that. So, yeah, good point. Let's see. Let me go further. Don Reese says, "Hire Rex Ryan." No, no. Sorry, that's got to be a joke. No Rex Ryan. And I would say I don't want to see. Well, I think we've talked about this. There are a lot of guys I don't want to see at all, so I'm not even going to name some of them. Yeah. Robert Gill says, "Rex Ryan, keep your shoes on." That was his wife. Let's get off that. Doug and Angie Lotta says, "Candle at Toledo." Yeah. Did I say Kent State? I probably did. They both have blue and yellow, so that's my fault. Mr. Matt DSM, I mean, Purdue did have history-making season. Yeah, that's important. Making history, keeping people's attention. They did that. Vasilos, Theodosopoulos. I think I did well there. Give me an order. These are good names. I like these names. Vasilos, he says, "Give me an order." Sumrall, Lashley from SMU. So Sumrall from is that Tulane? Lashley from SMU, Chadwell from Liberty, Trailer from SDS or San Antonio? No. I know. So one of Texas schools. No, not San Antonio. Doesn't matter. Yes, he's on my list, though. He's on my list. Yeah, these are good names. These are very good names, Vasilos. I appreciate it. Maybe Campbell or Kleeman. Yep. Call and have them turn down enormous offers. Campbell is settle. I'd accept. These are good names. That's a good list. Yeah, and mine will be out soon. These are good. These are very good. So solid stuff. Sarah Martin says, "Yes, Purdue fans, there is a Santa Claus." Yeah. Christmas season gets kicked off a little bit early for us. Rudy Ray Moore says, "I like Matt Campbell." Yeah, Matt Campbell's awesome at Iowa State. The interesting thing about Campbell is he's been known for defenses. He's an offensive coordinator, former offensive coordinator. Now, can you get him from Iowa State? And what's that buyout? It's going to be big. You talk about a guy with a resume, though. Crap. I mean, I brought up Sonny Dykes to my son. That's another guy with a long resume. There's some people that have soured a bit on Dykes, but man, he wins. And that offense is fun. That's a really fun. If you're just watching that team, if you tune in, he's fun. So those are two names that I think should be under consideration. Sure, why not? I mean, I don't know how this works, how wide of a net they're going to cast and when they're calling people. By the way, I'm watching an NFL game. What's the story of people bringing two mouthpieces attached to their face mask? What in the hell are they doing? Anyway, okay. Vasilis is not like Helton. Sarah Martin continues, "I was just watching your 66.0 video, so I'll have to rewind and start from the beginning, but I wanted to join the celebration in the chat." I'm glad you're here, Sarah. Really appreciate that. Let's go down. Metal Scholar 07 says, "It's not a major selling point for the next head coach that fan base is pretty logical and realistic in expectations. We would be content with flirting with a bowl game every year, 5, 6, 7 wins." This is it. Again, this is absolutely correct. This should be something that, is it a selling point? Here's the thing, the proof in the pudding here about this Metal Scholar. Look at the amount of tickets that were sold this year. Purdue got 4 wins last year. They were excited about the possibility of a team contending with a bowl game, even though we knew the schedule was going to be brutal. Purdue fans brought it this year because they're like, okay, like you said, get us close to a bowl game, and then every 3 years, give us 8 wins. Get an 8-win season that we flirt with higher stuff, right? That's kind of like where the old D'Antonio Michigan State teams were. Maybe Alvarez was a little bit up there. So Iowa, that sort of realm in the Big Ten, that's where Purdue wants to be. And then I think we're offensive minded. Give us something fun to watch. Defensive minded stuff has not worked at Purdue. And if you can find me an exception, tell me where I'm wrong in the past Purdue hires, and go back to the 60s or 50s if you want, and show me the successful defense first hires. But let's look in modern era specifically. I think that would be 1980 and after. You can even go sooner if you're younger than I am. I think this is my problem with some of the guys that are on my list, that I moved them down. So Chris Morse has, we could lure Dillingham from any way we could lure Dillingham away from Arizona State. He's an Arizona State alum. I brought that up. He's really, really energetic. He's fun. He also is a bit of a loose cannon at times. We saw that, last week? So, but he'd be fun, and he's passionate. I don't think Purdue can get him from Arizona State. I don't know if you want to pull a guy from his school. We've been through this kind of, right? Will Arizona State have the cash in a couple years to come back and get him? That one would bother me, him leaving and coming back, if he's pulled away. So, Not Me, that's the name, says UNLV head coach, which is the old Missouri head coach, which I can't remember his name right now, but we've talked about him. Yeah, he was on my list, but he's an old defensive coordinator, but he's got to have a good offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator at UNLV is awesome. And LBD talked about that last night. That's a good point. Ed Albanese, Gummy Bear King says, I don't like to see Drew Brees part of the search committee. I think Drew Brees has some pretty damn good connections, and we got to use Drew Brees as a good resource when he wants to be part of it. So I'd like him to be there. I don't want him to be considered as a coach. I think he could be considered. I said this last night. One of you guys said this too. Put him in there in the running for GM if he's willing to move, but I don't think he is. Ed Albanese says this is the time for Purdue to do what's right. Hire Brock Speck. I don't think that's the guy, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll see. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Kevin Jonas says, while we're hiring people, we need to look into a GM. Yep, we're just talking about that. Check out the org chart at Stanford, and they've got Andrew Luck. That's what you're going to say. The HC reports to the GM. We don't need Brees or a former player, so you're going to cut. You disagree with that idea yesterday. We need a smart guy who understands everything. Just understands. A smart guy who understands. Yeah. So Stanford's org chart is interesting. They're one of the first schools to really do things that way, I believe. I believe that's true. Garrett Burkle says, it isn't 2008. Unfortunately, the ship has sailed on Coach Brock's back. There's going to be disagreement among fans on this. Mike Gordon says, I agree, create a GM position. Sam says, competitive, exciting, bowl-eligible football. It's all the spoilers ask for. I think that's true, and I think it's simple. Basilos continues, says Campbell would be good. ISU is a place around is hard to win at. Yeah, this is a good point. The comparison with Iowa State and Purdue, right? You've got a place that's competing with very good programs right in the center of the country. It's not a glamorous place, right? It's an ag school. Pretty impressive what Matt Campbell's done. I agree. I think it's a very good point, and you got to look at that. Where's this person won, and what are their resources like? I think that's a good point. It's a good point. I think that's some people. That's a niche. He'll talk about this in Handsome Hour. He actually thinks Candle at Toledo has had really, really exceptional resources for the MAC, and so he says it's actually kind of easy to win at Toledo. I don't think that's true, by the way. I think it's hard to win in the MAC, regardless where you are outside of conference, and he's done a pretty good job doing that. I'm going to go down a little bit here. Jeffrey Hood says, need a coach from the South that has good connections with South high schools. Okay, so Jeffrey is going directly against some people saying we need to go from Midwest to get a guy who understands the Midwest. You can build both ways. Let's not forget, I think some of the best recruiting that's occurred at Purdue, some of it has been home cooking stuff, right? But there's also been a very good effort. Tiller specifically loved Texas. And I think Hope liked Texas and Florida and went and got some guys that were clearly great. You look at Akeem Hunt and Raheem Mostert specifically, and I think both of them were signed by Hope. They weren't utilized because Hope was gone early in their career, and then Hazel benched Mostert. But you had guys that were big time fast, right? You had speed there, big time speed, and it was the second layer of talent in Florida. The question is, how do you go get the guys that you know are a good fit for Purdue? And if I were whoever gets hired, I would have them have a conversation with Matt Painter and just talk about how difficult. Have Painter say, how do you win here? What have you done? What's your philosophy to get guys that you know want to be at Purdue? And I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm not saying coaching philosophy. I'm saying recruiting philosophy and building philosophy. The Purdue way is really Matt Painter's way. He's redefined it. And that's going to be an important part. Sheldon Coleman says, personally, don't want 5 to 6 wins a season, fighting to get a bowl game, maybe sprinkle an 8-win season here and there. Personally, I don't want 5 to 6 win seasons, a season fighting to get a bowl game and maybe sprinkle an 8-win season here and there. Big question is, how much will Purdue want to spend? I think they're going to spend. I think they're going to have to spend. So they're already spending for the buyout, but I think they're going to have to spend to go get their guy. If they don't, there are guys that I think are on my list that would say yes, and they're not. You don't have to break the bank with them, and they're going to be a major improvement. That's the thing. It's going to be improvement for what we saw. Will it be immediate improvement? That's the question. Will we see Purdue get into a higher rent district? I think, boy, we're going to have to see how quickly the cupboard is rebuilt. Cobra says, we have a GM. It's Noah Joseph. And will Joseph stay, Cobra? I don't know if he's independent from the coaching staff. I really don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I know that guy exists, but the question is that the right guy? Does he stay? I don't know any of that. We are in a new era. So maybe you guys know the answer. Rudy Ray Morse says, also like Chris Kleeman. Yep, Kansas State would also be a great hire. I just think a guy, and I might be wrong about all these guys about their buyouts. I don't know their buyouts. But yeah, I think a guy that has major conference experience would be an incredible splash, right? That'd be a big deal. So these are all good names. Sarah Martin says Cyber Monday sale on head coaches. Yeah, everything's priced to move. No doubt about it. Anish Ramaswamy says, alternative to Breeze in the true GM role, beyond Joseph, Rick Smith, former GM at Houston Texans and Purdue player. Damn it, Anish, you've done it again. You brilliant bastard. Sorry about the language. But Anish, how can I help it? That's a great idea. I like that one a lot. So very, very good. And appreciate you checking in, Anish. I think he's checking in either from a rest stop where he's getting some Cheez-It crackers, like in a bag, or maybe a potty break. Who knows? Let's see. Anish continues, says, P.S. Boiler Dowd, you sound great. Look handsome. Thank you for existing. Thank you, Anish. Thank you, Anish. And I was really excited. Anish knows this. I was really excited about having Anish on the three of us on a Handsome Hour tonight. And I misunderstood the thread. He put out a thread, and then I waited an hour and a half to reply to it. And I was sad to find out we couldn't get it done. So Anish had a great Thanksgiving weekend, I assume, with his brother and sister-in-law. So let's continue on. We're almost to the end. Oh boy, Garrett Burkle. Keep this bad juju. Ryan Grigson as Purdue GM. No. And there's smiley emojis there. If you're not in the live feed, that is a joke. That is tongue in cheek, and that's good. Drive safe, Anish. I agree. Let's see. Yeah, Andy in Colorado says, "Who's this Anish Ramaswamy guy? Handsome fellow is what he is, and ladies love Anish Ramaswamy. It's just a fact." Kevin Jonas says, that's exactly the type of thinking we need. Anish for AD. There you go. Anish, the answer is right there. You could get the job as AD in 27, and then maybe if you play your cards right, you can get a buyout within 2 years. Or if you play your cards really wrong and live the dream. Metal Scholar 07 says, is there an upside for Purdue publicly seeking a big splash hire, even if we fail, so long as it shows we are serious? Yeah, and this is the type of thing I always love thinking about. It's kind of a dream if you go after the big name. The question is, are the trustees on board? We know so little. I say this all the time. So with the trial balloon that was floated by Dienert's article and his postings, and then again floated by On3 afterwards. Who's pulling the strings with that idea? Was that the trustees? Was that Bobinski? Do the trustees still have that much of their hands in the business of what Bobinski does, right? Was the timing of Berghoff leaving the trustees due to the fact that Bobinski said, I'm heading out soon, and the board was like, we don't like the way things have been going. You guys are spending too much money. And Berghoff said, we're not spending enough of this TV money, this Big Ten money, because Purdue is not. Purdue is spending less in their football budget than any school in the conference right now. Stuff like that bothers me a lot. Purdue doesn't make the least in the conference. In fact, I don't think Purdue's in the bottom 3 or 4, but they're spending less than everybody else, and that's a problem. That's a big problem. So very good stuff. Thanks to everybody. If I didn't get to your question, comment, I apologize. I was just skipping through. So good stuff. And I apologize to about the poor audio if you had some issues. Rudy Ray Moore says Ryan Kerrigan is the linebackers coach for the Washington Commanders. Yes. That's a guy that you bring in as a positional coach. I do not think it's a defensive coordinator. Again, I want a coach who brings his DC and OC with him. Unless that guy gets hired away as head coach right away from the place that he leaves, right? I want the staff to come with the coach. I think it's absolutely essential. Like somebody said earlier, that was Joe Tiller's model. This has worked before. It can and will work again. DRC says that step was too big for Ryan Walters. I'll bet the man is relieved. Despite his performance here, I look forward to seeing him do good things in the future. This is what Anish thinks. Anish thinks that, and I don't think he's out of line here. But I'm just going to say it because I'm giving him credit for it. He thinks Walters will go on eventually, learn from what the failures here, go be DC again someplace, eventually get hired as a head coach at maybe a smaller program and do really well. There's a good possibility of that because I guarantee you learn more from failure than you do success. I think everybody's that way. And there are a lot of coaches on the staff. I've said this before, just like Daryl Hazel's staff has the tree is really good from Daryl Hazel, which is bizarre. A lot of those guys weren't quite ready to do it then, but they've learned a lot since. And maybe failing at Purdue so colossally helped them get there. Wild idea, but yeah, I think Walters could do well. I don't wish the man poor. I just did not want him as head coach anymore at Purdue. James C says Purdue should hire big to get recruits. Recruiting matters. The portal matters. There's so many things that matter. JP Boiler says the athletic department pays the university money from the TV contract. Yeah, that's right. The athletic department pays the university money from the TV contract. Yeah. So the way it happens is and people in the know can tell me I'm wrong, but the money comes in, the trustees decide how that budget is sliced up. Right. And so the trustees say, we want X percentage to go back into academics, back into the school. They get it pretty much. My whole point is I think Purdue should be competitive. This is a different era. Again, Mitch Daniels I think he called the athletic department the front porch of the university because it's effectively a marketing wing. This is the thing people see on TV. And there are a lot of people that have kids that are going to go to college that like watching sports. So when your programs do well and do things with pride, do things the right way, win games. Let's think back to even the Brom era when Purdue beat Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. That was a story that was on TV all the time. The Purdue brand got a bump from that, right? That type of thing is really, really good. The alternate side is when the football team's screwing around, doing stupid things. Let's say the end of the Tiller era when guys were getting in trouble off field. That stuff's embarrassing, right? That's the stuff that makes the academicians say, hey, I got no time for this. Got no time for this. We're not going to give this. We're not going to give this any more time. We got to pull the plug. All right. Jeffrey Hood says Louisiana Raging Cajuns head coach is a good choice. Michael Desmarais. He's got EAUX at the end. So I think Louisiana has been pretty good. I don't know anything about him specifically. So there's a lot of good names out there. So sound off in the comments after this is posted and let us know. Jeff Carrier says, IU grad and fan, but love your honest and fair comedy. Thank you, Jeff. Means a lot. Appreciate it. So Jeff, there you go. Maybe Jeff is one of the 5 really, really true IU football fans, and he can tell us. But that's awesome. Appreciate you sounding off. Jeff, you're in a very elite group if you're one of those 5. Congratulations. Ed Albany says, I hear Kyle Orton needs to do something. Kyle Orton always said he wanted to go into politics. So I don't know if he's going to, he hasn't run yet for office, but I know he said he wanted to. Let's see. Rudy Raymore says, Purdue makes a boatload of money from being a research institution. Yeah, Purdue makes money, and Purdue also has been smart. Mitch Daniels set up some things. A lot of people don't like Mitch Daniels. I like Mitch Daniels a lot. One thing he did is he relied heavily on out-of-state tuition and international tuition to help float things and keep in-state tuition flat, right? So Purdue, I don't think is hurting, and Purdue has been pretty efficient with the way they run things. I would like to see more spent on football, and I don't think it would hurt the university, but we can disagree or agree to disagree if not, we're not on the same page there. Mark Garrity says, large part of me picking Purdue to go to school was Breeze era football. This is a great story, Mark. It's a great story, and you're not alone in this. I didn't grow up a Purdue guy, and Breeze and Orton years were right around the time I started looking at colleges. This is not uncommon. That era, I think, was such a bump for Purdue admissions. It changed the perception of what Purdue was and is. And I guarantee you, not only football, right, but the getting to the Final Four last year changed perception in the state. Because if you're anything like me, you grew up in an era where, okay, yeah, I use a basketball school. They go to Final Fours. They got a jerk head coach. And Purdue's a not very good football school, not very good, and a step behind IU basketball school. Well, right now, I use a football school, so everything's flipped on its head. I use a football school. Purdue is a basketball school, a damn good one. And Purdue's on the commercials. When Purdue, they say Big Ten basketball, they show Purdue every time. That type of thing, that little subtle subliminal message over and over. Purdue, Purdue, Purdue. Success, trophies, that stuff, that matters. And you don't think IU's going to get a bump from this football ride they've got this year? Holy moly, they are. They absolutely are. Jason Ron says, Temple already hired Sam Houston's head coach. He was a name I liked. Yeah. This is the thing. The carousel spins quickly. Anish knows this better than anybody. He's so good at having names that I haven't thought of. And his research is deep. His document is a living document that changes all the time. Jay's pretty good at this, but this is what Anish likes. This is like his thing. Coaching searches make him go. So I'm sure he's aware of what's going on a lot more than I am. All right. Akoldi says 2 hirings already, Temple and Kennesaw State. I don't think those are pulling from Purdue candidates just yet. Tom Parker says, can we start a GoFundMe or a fund so we can get new unis for the new ball coach? Yeah, this is something that, from what I understand, Nike gives you a redesign every X amount of years, right? And so I said this. I think the problem you've got is that Nike's going to give you what you got next year. So that coach is going to be bridled with. I said this a week ago or 2 weeks ago. A lot of you guys make fun of my love affair with uniforms. I think they matter. I think a good looking uniform matters. An iconic uniform is great. Purdue hasn't had an iconic uniform in a while. But I think what you could see, and I think Nike would allow this, is if Purdue moves the number up on the front and removes Purdue, for instance, right? It's the same design. They're just making an adjustment, and that's within the framework of the stripes and all that stuff. You could see something like that. And I would have kind of liked to see that. I thought that the number was too low on the front of the jerseys. So does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. So, but it's fun stuff to talk about. Mohill 93 says basketball. It's a lot. You can make a lot quicker impact as well with the roster changes. Yeah. Rudy Ray Moore mentions West Virginia's fired their head coach. Yeah. I talked about that on Twitter. That's one of those that's going to affect the carousel. And I think that's a school that may reach out to Jamie Chadwell. They may reach out to a lot of the guys that I am interested in. I think they could reach out to Jason Candle. I don't know if you know this. Kurt Cignetti's a West Virginia former quarterback. Maybe they'll give Kurt Cignetti a call and say, yep, we're going to bite the bullet and take that. We want him to come home and we're going to pay the buyout. They're not going to do that, but it's fun to make people sweat and think about it a little bit. So there's a rumor we can start right now. We can maybe with Jeff Carrier. Jeff, go tell your friends that West Virginia is going to try to get Cignetti, and you guys need to give more money to keep him at IU. James Brooks says, sound great in Maryland. Sounds great in Maryland. That's good. I don't know if we're talking about the show or what. Akoldi says, Jimbo Fisher is rumored at West Virginia. Holy moly. Jimbo Fisher is such a wealthy dude. You talk about the Anish dream or business model, that's the one you want. You do want Jimbo Fisher's business model. You want to get bought out with $72 million. But to go back into coaching, that'd be a good fit, though. Seems like it'd be a good fit. And I think Jimbo Fisher's got more in the tank if he wants to do it. I Purdue should never even think about making that phone call. Let's see. Akoli says he hopes Dan Mullen goes to UNC and Fisher goes to West Virginia. JP Boiler says early signing day is Wednesday. That's the date that's coming up. Portal opens December 9th. So Purdue's got to get it, move on. And that's it. I agree. That's why this the 7-day goal, the next Sunday goal of announcing a coach. We'll probably hear about this tomorrow at 11 a.m. from Bobinski, but it's a fast calendar. And this is why some of you said you should fire Walters now, or at least getting the feelers out. The problem with getting feelers out without the firing, if the coach hears that, that's pretty Bush League type stuff. So you kind of have to make it public. Yeah, he's not coming back, and we're going to let him finish the season out, that sort of thing, which happens. But I don't think Purdue did that at all. So that's about it. We're at an hour 5. That's too much time. We will talk about this on the Handsome Hour, 9 p.m. Monday, 9 o'clock-ish, if you want to come back. Thanks to everybody. 800 of you viewed this live. That's awesome. And I said if there's 2 things that Purdue fans love, 1, really good basketball, like going to the Final Four type stuff. You guys have brought it during that season. And 2, really bad football, because a lot of you guys have tuned in during these quick cast, not so quick cast, whatever you want to call them. I had to come up with a better name because they are not quick anymore. But the interaction is important, and getting ideas out there is important. I've enjoyed that. And I do think some of this gets back to people that actually are in the know. And families of players tune into this stuff without signing off or sounding on very often. Thanks to all the players who have come to Purdue, chose Purdue. I want you to stay at Purdue. Hope that's very clear. The fans are not, the fans that have been sounding off on Twitter generally are not against you guys. I can speak for myself here. I'm an old guy. I'm 49, graduated in the class of 97. I have nothing against the roster. I think there's plenty of talent here for Purdue to win. If you guys disagree with me, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I got no issues with the guys that are there. I just think they need to be taught better. I think you need better coaching. You need better schemes. You need better preparation. You need better talent assessment. Get guys in the position where they succeed. Like we talked, I mean, I could start a whole nother hour of a show, but I'm not going to do it. So thanks again to everybody. Hammer down, boiler up. We'll talk to you soon, and see you tomorrow night around 9 p.m. See ya.